So I don't know, I mean I don't even know if I'm going to be invited back, but if I was, I think it would have to be for a drastically different version, in tone, in everything, just for my own sanity. That is Chris Hemsworth giving us his thoughts on a possible return as Thor. Now, things at Marvel has not been the best lately. They might have changed the way superhero movies is viewed, and what they were able to accomplish up until Endgame was nothing short of amazing, but it is also clear that those days are long behind us. Since Phase 3 ended, it has been really hard to find any winners within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There were a few good movies sprinkled in between, like Black Widow that I thought was okay. It was not going to win any awards, but compared to the other garbage that they put out, it was a masterpiece. I also enjoyed the second Venom, although I'm not really sure whether that counted as part of the MCU, considering that there was no real overlap. I also enjoyed Spider-Man and thought that those movies are also great, as well as Doctor Strange that had his moment as well. But with that said, one of the biggest points of contention has been Thor Love and Thunder. People did not enjoy Taika Waititi's version of the character, reducing him down to nothing more than a comedy act, although I would argue that comic relief has been one of the stronger points within the MCU. I think that during the first 3 phases of Marvel, there has always been this balance that existed. You would have your joking characters, but then you would also have your very serious ones. In the beginning, it was a formula that worked quite well. Seeing jokes sprinkled in between those serious moments was something that we have not seen up until Marvel started doing it. DC has always been the superhero kings, and their movies were always way darker and more serious, so seeing some of that comedy from Marvel very quickly became extremely popular. But again, you had your comedy characters, but it was never a comedy show. Captain America was a good example of a more serious character, but they never overdid it with the darkness, and even Thor in the first 2 movies was also a lot more dark. Now, as I've said, I do enjoy the lighter side, but you never want to see the God of Thunder being reduced down to nothing more than a clown show, similar to what they did with Hulk. Although I would say Thor is funny and Hulk is just a joke. But be that as it may, Chris Hemsworth, the actor behind the character, seems to agree that Thor Love and Thunder did not really work, and he did express his unhappiness very openly, stating that he would not return as the character unless some very serious changes was made. In an article written by Bounding Into Comics, they write in further confirmation that the actor, like most everyone, is fed up with the director's blatant disrespect of the character. Chris Hemsworth has declared that his return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Thor is conditioned on being able to play a drastically different version of the character compared to his portrayal under the irony ladle direction of Taika Waititi. They go on to say here that when asked by the interviewer where do you go with Thor at this point, Hemsworth asserted that while he was unsure if he would even get another chance to pick up the hammer now that his Marvel Studios contract has closed out with Thor Love and Thunder, should he ever get the chance to reprise the role, he would love to see his thus far career-defining character written in a way more akin to the tortured hero that he was in the last 2 Avengers movies, rather than the bronze over brain comic relief that he was in the last 2 solo outings. Now, based on those comments, it is clear that he's not a very big fan of the way that the character is being portrayed at the moment. Now, at this point, it is very unclear whether or not he will be returning to the role. With Phase 4 of Marvel underway, it is clear that there is a new wave of talent that is taking over, and it is unclear who will be taking up the new god going forward. Captain America, or at least Chris Evans' version of Captain America, is done. Robert Downey Downey Jr. is out as Iron Man, and the character is going to be replaced by a new female lead, and it's no longer going to be Iron Man, but instead it's now going to be called Ironheart. So we also don't know what's going to happen with that character going forward, but I'm sure this new version of the character is going to have a very big future within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, similar to how we saw the first setup all those years back for the next Avengers villain who was previously in Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was Thanos. He first appeared in Guardians, and then it was made clear that he was going to be the villain going forward in the Avengers movies as well, and we are now kind of seeing that similar setup being portrayed in Ant-Man. It seems all but certain that the next Ant-Man movie is going to be a setup for the next Avengers, with Kang the Conqueror likely to be the next main MCU bad guy. Now, with all of that, the question becomes, will there be a place for Thor in that cinematic universe, and will it be Chris Hemsworth portraying him? They might actually just decide to cut him out altogether and just replace him with somebody like Natalie Portman. Now, to be honest, I do not think that Chris Hemsworth is going to be all that upset if he's going to be replaced. He seems to not really be very happy with the current direction of the character. He said, I think you look at Thor and Thor the Dark World and they were quite similar. The actor opined to his host Ragnarok and Love and Thunder are similar. I think we have had such a unique opportunity with Infinity War and Endgame to do a very dramatic things with the character. I enjoy that, you know, he added, doing his best to sidestep calling out Waititi's indifferent to good storytelling by name. Hemsworth continued, I like keeping people on their toes. It keeps me invested. I've said this before, but when it becomes too familiar, I think there is a risk in getting lazy, because then you go, you know, I know what I'm doing. They ended up saying, yeah, ultimately Hemsworth admitted, so I don't know, I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to be invited back, but if I was, I think it would have to be for a drastically different version, in tone, in everything, and that is just for my own sanity. And it is very clear here that Chris Hemsworth is not very happy with what is going on. I'm sure he does have a deep passion for the character. He has been playing the character for years now, and it is understandable that he would be attached to it. No one wants to see a character that you have spent so much time in completely ruined, and also your name is attached to the project, and these type of bad writings can stick with you forever. He goes on to say here, I'm at a point in my life where I'm meeting with different directors and people say, oh yeah, look, he's a mad genius, he's mad but he's a genius and he'll make great films, and I'm like, is that who I want to spend my days with, the actor said, making a very obvious dig at Waititi. Now, those words pretty much does seem to say it all. I do not know what is going to happen going forward, but I do hope that they can take characters like Thor and Hulk and return them to their more aggressive roots. Although we might enjoy a little bit of comedy for these characters, nobody wants these characters to become nothing more than a joke.